Murder in the morning from the Hidden Killers podcast.
Well, our new alleged serial killer fascination, Rex Heuermann, in court yesterday, facing the charges. And we learned a lot about the evidence that is against him, the amount of evidence that is lining up against him. And we're just beginning to scrape the surface of everything that we're going to be witnessing here in the coming weeks and months as they begin this 13-year investigation. I mean, Stacey, that's a ton of information over 13 years. We're talking documents, we're talking gigabytes, we're talking photos, we're talking autopsy records, we're talking all sorts of individuals' testimony as to where these people were and when and what people witnessed, heard, and saw. And now all of those dots are trying to be connected back to Rex Heuermann.
Yeah. And it's a lot of information to take in. It's a lot of things to comb through. One of the things that I imagine you and I are going to be talking about is the wife's statement that she made, and how she talked about how authorities just came in and ripped her house apart, like destroyed it, treated them like animals. Because they are looking for so much material. You know, it's interesting to relate it back to something that I'm familiar with. Last week, we decided to put some new windows in our home. Well, it turned our house upside down, basically, because we had to move things away from the windows. They needed 3 feet from the left to the right and in front of the windows. And we've lived here a while, so we've got some stuff, and things were moved and upset, and just life was turned upside down. I can't imagine what these people are going through. I mean, what I went through for putting new windows in was chaotic and annoying and a pain in the butt. Her entire home was torn apart. They ripped apart a bathtub.
And it's understandable why they did that. I mean, obviously, they have strong evidence that this man is involved in these horrible things. So people like this tend to hide things, tend to hide trophies of what we know of cases in the past. BTK comes to mind. He had places he called hidey holes, because why not make everything sound nice and cute when you're a mass murderer? But that's what he did. He called it hidey holes. And there was all these different places around his house that the average individual, the wife, the children would not go to or find. But once the FBI gets in there and starts digging things apart, then you start finding more evidence that points to involvement in these murders. But I can't imagine. I mean, that would be horrible going back to that. I know I was reading the couch was literally ripped apart. So no more couch. I will say this, though. After looking at the house, seeing the inside, seeing the outside and all that, I'm going to guess it was kind of a bit of a hoarder house even prior to the FBI coming in.
And I think you're right about that. And I think the police coming in and the authorities, the investigators turning everything upside down made it 10 times worse. So now it's just these poor people, their lives are upside down. We were talking about that this was their home base, and that's why they're back there, because this is where they've been for 25 years. But it's not the same home. It's possibility of, now we know something might have happened here. There might have been things hidden here from dead people that were murdered by a supposed loved one. I mean, it's just, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't go stay somewhere else.
Yeah. Well,
if they had any means about them to do that.
And I don't know that they do. We have learned more. It was an interesting statement that his wife made, saying that my children are crying themselves to sleep at night, which, okay, children. Oh, wait. Then she goes, well, wait, they're adults. but anyone would be crying themselves to sleep tonight, no matter what your age, if you found out your dad was responsible or accused of doing these sort of things. But we have learned something, which I thought was interesting, and I think would have been helpful just to clear up right away. So there wasn't a lot of speculation on it. But the son, who's 30-something years old, he does have special needs and has a developmental learning disability. And she had stated through her attorney that he's having a real hard time even understanding what's going on, which, yeah. So add that to the mix of you have a special needs son to try. I mean, it's hard enough without having that to wrap your mind around that your dad did these horrible things, and then add that to the mix. Probably being back in that home. I wonder how much of just being back in that home is being done for the son because it's familiar. It's a place that he knows. Maybe he doesn't get the context of it all, but trying to work through all of this as best they can. There's no guidebook to any of this.
Part of me, the compassionate part of me wonders, is there a service out there? I know there's like crime scene cleanups.
Yeah.
I knew somebody that used to go clean crime scenes where, if somebody committed suicide or was murdered, they would come in. They were kind of a hazmat team. They would clean up, do things like that. I just wonder if there isn't some sort of a service that can come in and at least help them make it livable and get rid of that nasty couch. Let's go to Goodwill and see if we can get them something else or just something of that nature to at least give them some sort of stability inside their lives right now, because they have none.
I don't know that they did prior to Rex, honestly. This seems like a family that really things were kind of nutty for a long period. And I don't know. I mean, I hope they can find it. I know the inside of the house torn apart right now by the police, but also again, seeing it, is it that different than before? I don't know. I mean, it really does resemble a hoarder house, and it does not necessarily that of a house that was ripped apart by police. The amount of boxes and things of that nature, really, police didn't bring in boxes. These sort of things were very likely stacked and already in a chaotic disarray prior to it. But yeah, I mean, getting somebody in there just to help them to find some sort of normalcy, because God knows how much of that was a product of Rex allowing that to happen. Who is the hoarder here? I don't know. There's a TV show, Homicide Hoarders. We can start it. And then you go and you help families of people who had horrible, horrible people living with them and go through their boxes of stuff that they've been holding on to, either as a means of having some sort of sanity amongst a horrible person that you're living with, or the stuff from the horrible person themselves. The array of evidence includes 2,500 pages of documents, numerous crime scene photos, extensive autopsy reports, hundreds of hours of video footage acquired from Heuermann's residence and professional workplace. 8 gigabytes is what they're saying, which in reality, not a lot. Just depends how you look at data. It's nowhere near, like, what was it, 20 terabytes or something? And that sounded exciting and horrible. I don't know, data is data. Video files are large. During the brief hearing, the prosecution handed over 4 hard drives containing significant evidence to Suffolk County Supreme Court Justice Timothy Mazzei and Heuermann's defense attorney. A subsequent pretrial conference hearing has been now arranged for September 27th. Under a protective order agreed upon by Heuermann's attorney Michael Brown and Suffolk County District Attorney Raymond A. Tierney, the release of the evidence remains strictly confined to attorneys. We're talking about 13 years of investigation, Tierney stated in a post-hearing press conference, highlighting the enormity of the material and the ongoing nature of the investigation. Heuermann was clad in a black blazer and light-colored trousers as he made his presence known at the hearing, hosted at the Arthur M. Cromarty Criminal Court Complex. The courtroom was packed, about 100 people, including members of the media, public spectators, and victims' families as well. The suspect remained silent throughout the brief hearing. Heuermann was indicted last month with 3 counts each of first-degree and second-degree murder, specifically relating to the deaths of Melissa Barthélemy, who was 24 at the time, Megan Waterman, who was 22, and Amber Lynn Costello, who was 27. The discovery of these women's remains back in December of 2010 at Gilgo Beach on Long Island's South Shore ended up leading to his arrest. The dramatic arrest of Heuermann outside his Manhattan office on July 13th marked the most consequential development in the prolonged investigation into the series of mostly young female victims discovered along Gilgo Beach. Heuermann is also under suspicion regarding the disappearance of a 4th woman, Maureen Bernard Barnes, who was 25, whose remains were similarly found near Gilgo Beach. This particular investigation, though, is still in progress. The victims, now referred to as the Gilgo 4, were thought to have been engaged in sex work, utilizing online platforms for advertisement. According to police reports, some of the victims' family members were present at Tuesday's hearing and mentioned by Tierney. These victims were discovered during the search for another missing woman, Shannon Gilbert, who was last spotted within the proximity of a gated community of Oak Beach. Heuerman, to this point, has pled not guilty and firmly denied involvement in the killings. His attorney, Brown, stated post-hearing, "We are prepared to go forward. We will defend this case in the court of law, and we will go to trial in this case." Brown has also previously labeled the case against Heuerman as extremely circumstantial in nature. Investigators,
Really?
extremely. Well, that's fine, and they like to say that because then people like to think, oh, that doesn't mean anything. Really, a lot of cases are settled on circumstantial evidence. When you have mountains of it, that usually kind of says, when there's smoke, there's fire. Investigators have linked Heuerman to the crime based on DNA recovered from a discarded pizza, which allegedly matches a male hair found on a burlap sack and material used to wrap Waterman's body. District Attorney Tierney confirmed that the evidence in the case would encompass mitochondrial DNA, nuclear DNA as well, which has already undergone testing and has been deemed admissible in U.S. courts. We've been hearing a lot about that in the Koberger case as well. And if you're looking for a little lesson on DNA, take a look at our interview with Dan Crane, which is on the podcast. Just search for Dan Crane, like Fraser Crane. And you can listen to him explain it in far more eloquent terms than me.
Yeah, he's an extreme expert on DNA. And I think because they have found his DNA in this location with these bodies as evidence, he's going to have a hard time twisting out of this. I don't think there's any way that he can deny that that's him.
No, I think this is pretty much a slam dunk case. And if it's not him, he was sitting there with the murderer, but with the amount of things that are pointing at him, it's disturbing. I mean, they even found his wife's hair on the burlap sack that was over one of the heads of the victims. Now, that's not to say that his wife was involved in any of the murders. It's more like, you have a burlap sack or you have duct tape or something around your house that collects, fur and hair and all that. I mean, anybody that lives there, their stuff is going to be on it. If you walk into the living room, I've got long hair. You're going to find my hair on the floor somewhere in there. I mean, and not to mention pet hair. I mean, so your lives inside your house go with you when you leave the house. Oh, yeah, without a doubt. You'll also find cats with duct tape over their mouth at Stacy's house, which she does while we record the shows to keep the cats quiet. Well,
they are Siamese, so they do speak loudly. So, yeah.
I have one that I'm
sure you've heard them.
Oh, sometimes I think I have. It's not very much, though. But I have two cats. I have the one that's like some sort of Siamese and talks all the time. And when I don't respond, starts banging on my door.
Yep.
Yeah,
bingo.
To the studio. And they're loud banging. Like, how are you doing this? Are you like throwing your body against the door? And I'm curious sometimes as to exactly what's going on. But yeah, I have.
It's a shut door. That's what's going on. How dare you shut the door?
How dare! And then the thing is, I open it and she just turns around and walks away.
Well, yeah, but the door was shut. Yeah. They'd prefer it not be shut.
Just want to let you know, I know you're in there, and I'm going to go over here and just lay in the sun, and that's all I'm going to do.
That's a cat's life, man. That's what we bought into. That's the contract we made.
It'd be fun to do a podcast with the cats, like just give each of the cats a mic and just let them go and see what happens, because they both talk a lot. So I'm sure, they'd have something interesting to discuss, and we could just put it out there and have no idea what the content is. And it turns out cats are like talking about killing their owners for years.
I don't doubt that a bit. And, back to this story, there were cats in the house, and it sounds like, I'm such a terrible person. The first thing I thought of was, oh my God, well, while everybody was out of the house, was somebody taking care of the cats? Mm-hmm. That's where my brain went.
Well, and it was mentioned in the story, but it wasn't expounded upon, where she says, I had 3 cats. Yeah. Litter boxes are everywhere. Well, okay, does that mean you still have 3 cats? Or like, where did they run away?
Well, who knows? They had doors open. They were coming and going. I mean, my cats, you open the front door, one of them's gone. Yeah. So we have to keep a very, very tight, rein on him. The other one doesn't really care, but the other one, he was a stray, and he's just like, oh, freedom. So, I'm hoping that they haven't lost their pets in this too, because we know that animals are a huge comfort to people who are going through trauma and things like that. So I just, that's where my heart went too, was like, shit, can we just keep track of the animals and not, I realize you have to tear up these people's home, but my God, every part of their life has been affected.
And we have DNA evidence now that is very, very impactful. We have evidence now of Google searches, which is, I think, another huge impactful piece of evidence. Things that we didn't have 25 years ago when we're looking at cases. My prediction for the future, we're going to have pet evidence. AI will some, and I'm being somewhat facetious and somewhat not at the same time here with this thought. I'm wondering if there will be technology developed enough using AI that will allow people people to truly be able to actually understand what your pets are telling you. I see it more with cats because they kind of more of a language, it seems, going on. Maybe dogs too, but I feel like cats like literally have conversations together, and it's very bizarre when you see it. And I'm wondering if there'll ever be a way or a time where some of that can be deciphered. And then you're going to start having these cases where it's like, well, you know what? The tabby said that she saw him murder the victim in the basement. And then the tabby's just sitting there, telling
licking her paws going, yep, I saw it too, man.
The downfall. Who cares about DNA evidence? Who cares about Google searches when your cat is telling you what happened? Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. That is the future.
You're locked into the Hidden Killers podcast.
Want more? Start binging on all of our true crime podcasts right now through Apple Podcasts and get an ad-free experience when you sign up to be a True Crime Today Premium Plus member exclusively on Apple Podcasts.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast dropping soon.
Press subscribe now.